Most people believe they need more time to change their lives, but the truth is the opposite. People don't lack time, they lack urgency. When you give yourself unlimited days, unlimited chances, unlimited tomorrows, your brain relaxes, you postpone your goals, you let life slip through your fingers because you think you can start next week. And this is exactly how years disappear silently. But something extraordinary happens the moment you act, as if you have only 22 days left to completely transform your life. The mind snaps into focus. Suddenly, you stop negotiating with yourself. You stop scrolling endlessly. You stop delaying the changes you already know you need to make. The imaginary countdown forces you to face your life with complete honesty. Urgency is a psychological switch. It turns "I should do this" into "I have no choice." It turns one day into day one. It turns fear into fuel. Think about every breakthrough you've ever had or seen in others. It always came after a moment of pressure, a moment where comfort was no longer an option. Humans are built to rise under urgency. When there is no urgency, the mind defaults to safety, laziness, and familiar routines. Nothing changes because nothing forces it to change. The next 22 days are not about doing something big or dramatic. They are about treating every day like it actually matters, because it does. Every day you waste is a day subtracting from your potential. When you embrace urgency, you no longer ask, "What if I fail?" You start asking, "What if I succeed? What if these 22 days create a version of me I've never met before?" Nothing motivates the human brain more than a deadline. It creates laser-like focus. It cuts out distractions. It eliminates excuses. Even your energy changes because urgency demands action. Imagine if you worked toward your goals with the intensity of someone whose life depended on the next 22 days. Imagine the discipline, the clarity, the choices you would make. Imagine how quickly your results would multiply. Urgency doesn't mean rushing. It means prioritizing. It means finally doing what you've been delaying for months. It means finally acting on the dreams you've postponed out of fear. The most dangerous word in your life is later. Later kills dreams. Later kills ambition. Later kills potential. Later kills years. People don't fail because they are incapable. They fail because they believe later still exists. You want your life to transform, then set the clock. 22 days, 22 mornings where you wake up with intention. 22 nights where you go to bed knowing you moved forward. When you compress your goals into a short, intense time frame, you unlock a level of discipline and clarity you never knew you had. Urgency forces you to stop existing and start living. And if you commit to these 22 days fully, you won't just change your routine, you will change your identity, your mindset, and your entire future. Real and permanent transformation never starts with goals, plans, or motivation. It starts with something far deeper: identity. Because every action you take, every habit you repeat, every decision you make comes from who you believe you are. If your identity doesn't change, your life can't change. You can force discipline for a few days, you can feel motivated for a few hours, but if your self-image remains the same, you will eventually fall back into the version of you that feels familiar, comfortable, predictable. To change your life in 22 days, you must choose to change who you are, not just what you do. This is called an identity shift the moment you stop trying to improve the old version of yourself and instead decide to replace it. Most people say things like, "I want to be disciplined," "I want to be confident," "I want to be consistent," but wanting is useless if you still think of yourself as someone who procrastinates, someone who quits, someone who breaks promises to themselves. The subconscious mind always pulls you back to the identity you have accepted, even if that identity is destroying your potential. Identity shift means telling yourself a different story and then proving that story true through action. It means showing up as the person you want to become, even before you feel ready. It means behaving like the future version of you today, because identity is not who you are, identity is who you repeatedly choose to be. For the next 22 days, you need to embrace a new identity, the identity of someone who does the hard things whether they feel like it or not, the identity of someone who chooses growth over comfort, the identity of someone who does not negotiate with their limits, the identity of someone who follows through every single day. You don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your identity. When you shift your identity, your habits naturally follow. You stop forcing discipline and start embodying it. You stop chasing confidence and start living it. You stop trying to be consistent and start becoming the type of person who simply doesn't quit. An identity shift requires courage because letting go of who you've been is uncomfortable. But staying the same is far more painful. Every breakthrough in your life, from fitness to career to mindset, happens when you outgrow the version of yourself that kept you stuck. For 22 days, talk like the person you want to be. Walk like them, work like them, think like them, show up like them. Your brain will resist at first, because old identities cling to comfort, but the moment you act differently, you create a conflict inside your mind, and your mind will eventually choose to align with your new behavior. That's how identity shifts happen, small, repeated actions that contradict your old self until your brain is forced to accept the new one. These 22 days are your chance to create a character upgrade to rewrite who you are at the deepest level. If you embrace the identity of the person you want to become, your life will transform faster than you ever thought possible. When people imagine changing their lives, they picture something dramatic: waking up at 4 a.m. every day, working non-stop, transforming everything overnight. But the truth is simpler, quieter, and far more powerful. Your life changes through micro habits, the tiny actions you repeat every single day. These small habits may look insignificant, but over 22 days they begin rewiring your brain, shifting your identity, and altering your entire direction. Most people underestimate small habits because they can't see the transformation immediately. Reading one page doesn't make you smarter. Doing 5 push-ups doesn't change your body. Saving $1 doesn't make you wealthy. So people ignore small actions, waiting for the big move that will magically fix everything. But change doesn't work like that. It is the daily micro habits, the little choices that quietly build momentum until the transformation becomes impossible to ignore. In 22 days, micro habits can become automatic. That's because the brain is built through repetition. The more consistently you perform a tiny action, the more your brain wires it as part of your identity. These habits don't just change what you do, they change what you believe about yourself. Small habits create big confidence. Small habits create big discipline. Small habits create big results. Micro habits work because they remove the biggest enemy of progress: overwhelm. You don't need to change everything in one day. You just need to change something today. Instead of trying to meditate for 30 minutes, start with 1 minute. Instead of reading an entire book, read 2 pages. Instead of going to the gym for an hour, do 10 minutes of movement. Instead of building a perfect morning routine, start by fixing the first 5 minutes of your day. These micro habits signal to your mind, I am becoming someone better. I am moving. I am progressing. Once you begin, the momentum grows. Momentum creates motivation, not the other way around. Micro habits also create what psychologists call a chain reaction. One habit triggers another. Drinking a glass of water in the morning makes you feel healthier, which makes you want to move more, which boosts your energy, which improves your focus, which helps you work better, which strengthens your confidence. Suddenly, your entire day has transformed from one tiny action. The next 22 days are not about perfection, they are about consistency. A micro habit done daily is more powerful than a giant habit attempted once. Most people fail because they try to change too much, too fast, and burn out within days. But when you commit to micro habits, you create sustainable change that grows naturally. Think of your life as a staircase. Micro habits are the steps. They may be small, but they take you upward every single day. And once you go up enough steps, you reach a completely different level. In 22 days, tiny actions will shape your identity, reshape your belief system, and rebuild your mindset. Micro habits are the seeds of a new life. If you plant them now and protect them for just 22 days, the results will be bigger, louder, and more permanent than you ever imagined. Most people don't realize they are stuck in a loop, a repeating cycle that traps them in the same patterns, the same habits, the same environment, the same fears, and ultimately the same results. They wake up, follow the same routines, think the same thoughts, make the same excuses, chase the same distractions, repeat the same mistakes, and call this repetition a life. But it's not life, it's a loop. And unless you consciously break it, you will live the same year 75 times and call it a lifetime. Breaking the loop is the foundation of transformation, and the next 22 days are your opportunity to finally escape it. The loop begins with comfort. Comfort feels safe, familiar, and predictable. It requires no risk, no courage, no discomfort. But comfort is also a silent trap. It convinces you that staying the same is acceptable, even when your soul knows you were meant for more. The loop continues through habits. Your brain prefers familiar patterns because they conserve energy. It wants you to behave today the same way you did yesterday. That's why change feels hard, not because you're weak, but because your brain is wired to repeat what it already knows. But here's the truth. If nothing changes in your daily decisions, nothing changes in your life. To break the loop, you must first become aware that you are in one. You must recognize the cycles that keep you stuck: procrastination, fear of failure, fear of judgment, lack of discipline, negative self-talk, unhealthy routines, or the environment that pulls you backward. Once you see the loop, you can break it, and it only takes one courageous decision to start the process. These 22 days are your window to interrupt the pattern, to do something different long enough to force your brain to form a new path. When you consistently make choices that the old you would never make, you disrupt the loop. When you push yourself even when you don't feel like it, you disrupt the loop. When you say no to comfort, when you choose growth over ease, when you show up even on tired days, you disrupt the loop. And what happens when the loop breaks? You experience momentum. You feel alive again. You feel possibility. You realize you're not stuck. You were simply repeating a pattern. Once the loop breaks, identity begins to shift. Confidence begins to build. Purpose begins to emerge. You start seeing proof that you can change, and that proof becomes fuel for even bigger changes. These 22 days aren't about becoming perfect. They're about breaking the cycle that kept you average. They're about turning off autopilot and taking back control. They're about proving to yourself that your future doesn't have to look like your past. You have lived enough repeated years. Now it's time to live a different 22 days consciously, intentionally, courageously. Break the loop, and your life will never return to the old pattern again. Pain is one of the most misunderstood forces in life. Most people spend their entire existence avoiding it, avoiding discomfort, avoiding challenges, avoiding situations that stretch them, avoiding anything that feels unfamiliar or difficult. But what they don't realize is this: pain is not the enemy, it's the signal. It's the doorway, it's the threshold you must cross if you want to reach the version of yourself that your potential is calling you to become. Every breakthrough in human history, every transformation story, every success journey begins with a moment of pain. Pain is the universe's way of saying it's time to grow. It's the pressure that pushes you out of your old identity. It's the friction that removes your weaknesses. It's the fire that shapes your strength. In the next 22 days, you are going to experience discomfort mentally, physically, and emotionally. You will face days where your mind tries to pull you back to old habits. You will feel resistance. You will feel tired. You will feel the urge to quit. But these moments are not signs that you're failing. They are signs that you are breaking through the layer of limitations that has held you back for years. Pain is the proof that transformation is happening. Think of a muscle. It grows only when it tears. Think of a seed. It breaks open before it becomes a tree. Think of a diamond. It forms only under intense pressure. Why do we expect personal growth to be any different? The truth is The pain you've been avoiding is the exact pain you need to face to unlock your next level. The discomfort of waking up early, the discomfort of discipline, the discomfort of saying no when your old self always said yes, the discomfort of focusing when you're used to distraction. These are not punishments, they are invitations into a higher version of yourself. Pain shows you where you've been weak. Pain shows you where you've been hiding. Pain shows you where you've been shrinking yourself. And when you face it, you break through. In these 22 days, every moment of discomfort is a moment of transformation. Every time you push yourself when you don't feel like it, you build mental strength. Every time you choose discipline over comfort, your identity changes. Every time you do what the old you would avoid, you widen the gap between who you were and who you are becoming. Pain is the gateway between your current self and your future self. Walk through it, and you step into a new life. Avoid it, and you stay exactly where you are. The reason these 22 days are so powerful is because they compress your transformation. They force your mind to adapt, your habits to shift, your identity to evolve. The discomfort you feel is the heat that reshapes you, and the moment you stop running from pain and start using it, you become unstoppable. If you embrace the pain, if you lean into it, accept it, and use it, you will break through barriers you never believed you could overcome. You will emerge mentally stronger, emotionally sharper, and spiritually unbreakable. Pain is not the end. Pain is the beginning of the transformation you've been waiting for. If there's one truth you must carry with you after this entire message, it is this: you are far closer to a new life than you think. Not in a year, not in 6 months, not when the timing is right, but in the next 22 days, because everything you need to transform your mind, your habits, your identity, and your direction already exists inside you. It has always been there. You just needed urgency to activate it, identity to anchor it, habits to support it, clarity to guide it, and pain to push you through it. These last 22 days are not a challenge, they are an awakening. A reminder that you are not stuck. You have simply been repeating a loop. A reminder that small habits can create massive change. A reminder that the identity you choose determines the life you live. A reminder that urgency is the fuel your greatness has been waiting for. And a reminder that pain is not the sign to stop, but the sign to keep going. You are stepping into a phase of your life where every decision matters. Every day matters, every habit matters, every moment matters, because these next 22 days will not just change what you do, they will change who you are. They will reveal a version of you that has been buried under fear, comfort, and old routines. A version of you that is disciplined, focused, determined, courageous, and relentless. A version of you that refuses to settle for average. A version of you that knows exactly where it's going. And when you reach day 22, you won't be finished, you will be transformed. You will look back and realize that everything you were searching for was waiting behind a single decision. The decision to finally take control of your life. This is your time, your moment, your turning point. The last 22 days aren't just a challenge, they're a rebirth. And if you commit fully and honestly, you will never return to the version of yourself that stayed stuck. Your new life begins now.